Last October, the new chairman of Big Four consultancy firm KPMG was named as Michael Andrew. But unlike his predecessors, he'll be running the global operation over his 4-year term from Hong Kong. So will it set a precedent for professional services firms? Michael Andrew joins us. And Michael, could you tell us why it is that you decided to chair KPMG from Hong Kong?
Martin, this is where the action is for our profession. Really, it's the growth in China, India, the ASEAN countries, which are critical to our success. So I thought you really had to be on the ground, talking to the regulators, the clients, the market, to really gain a competitive edge. I think the second thing was just sheer logistics. This truly is the Middle Kingdom, so the ability to get on a direct flight anywhere in the world is a huge logistic advantage for someone who travels as much as I do. And finally, I got some very good advice from a very wise chairman who said, follow the money. He said, everyone I need to see has to come to Hong Kong at some stage with the power of the exchange and the liquidity that's in the markets here.
So does it really reflect the shift from the developed world to emerging countries?
Well, there are a number of factors that are giving rise to that. When I talk to my major clients around the world, they're really trying to tap into the growing middle class in this region with their products and their services. So they're shifting their operations and their investments here. The second factor, in a lot of the Western markets, liquidity is a problem in the banking sector. So the ability to raise capital, deal with banks who are able to expand their balance sheet is a competitive advantage. So increasingly they're coming down to this market to tap into those opportunities.
And when you're looking at the countries that you're particularly involved in here in Asia, you're really talking about India and China, aren't you?
It's broader than that. I mean, I would also add, Brazil and Africa as being very important to us as well. But there's a second tier of growth that's coming through in the ASEAN, in Turkey, in the Middle East, and as I said, some of the African countries in particular are of great interest to us at the moment.
So you're able to see a range of markets and based in Hong Kong.
And I find them much better received coming from somewhere in the region and showing empathy with the markets. Therefore, I get access to key politicians, key bureaucrats, key regulators and key clients much more readily in these markets, being able to say that I'm actually based here, I'm one of you.
Michael, you've been one of the architects of KPMG's global strategy and you know the Asia Pacific very well. So what's your outlook, what's your goals in your 4-year term for KPMG?
I actually wrote the first Asia Pacific strategy for KPMG back in 1992, and then I became chairman of Asia Pacific. So I just see this as a huge market opportunity for us. So I've set ourselves the goal of being number 1 or 2 in every one of the critical markets that's here. And by that means really looking across the breadth of services we operate and being the quality provider in those markets.
So is the nature of the business really changing from auditing and tax to consultancy services?
Well, it's interesting. In these markets, traditionally tax is the entry point. That's what the international investors want. Then you get to the IPOs of the local clients, and ultimately they then start to move overseas. And as a result of that, they actually need sophisticated advisory skills, giving them due diligence, teaching about risk, teaching about major computer installation systems, and looking at world's best practice. So we're in that phase at the moment where advisory is going very, very strongly in this market. The thing about KPMG is you have a very strong independent brand, which your audit really defines. You're independent, you're objective, so the clients will know you'll get advice which is not based upon a contingent fee or something else.
So in developing all those services, does it mean that KPMG is becoming even bigger amongst the Big Four?
Oh, we're a $23 billion practice now, and I think by the time I leave the role in 3 or 4 years' time, I'm quite confident we'll have passed 30 billion at that point. The growth in these markets is enormous. The appetite for the skills that we have is huge, and as these markets open up, increasingly there's a flight to quality, and firms like us tended to do very well in that part of the cycle.
So does that mean that the Big Four companies are going to be making many more decisions with the Asia Pacific in mind? And does that mean that your company really has a first mover advantage?
Well, Martin, I hope I'm the only chairman to come to Hong Kong, because I think it's been incredibly well received in the client base, in the local markets down here. And I do think it's a significant competitive edge as the world shifts from west to east, from north to south, to actually demonstrate that you understand that macro dynamic is very, very important.
So Michael, we've talked about the business, but what about living in Hong Kong? Do you enjoy it?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, the food's excellent, the wine is plentiful, there's sport all around you. Logistically, I can get to the airport in 45 minutes. It's one of the most efficient airports in the world. International city, you'd hardly call it a hardship posting.